on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Swagcast. Today, I have a very familiar guest to my community, a former college wrestler turned coach with a long list of accolades, a BJJ blue belt, and a content creator. What's going on, Romero? How we doing?
I'm doing good. It's been pretty busy. Pretty busy. We got competition about 3-4 weeks for myself over in Saratoga. So I'm gonna do a jiu-jitsu competition. I do gi and no gi, and then just busy training. I got over at the club I'm helping out at. I got a couple guys going to the freestyle state tournament. So look, going good. Busy schedule, and then I got content I got to release on our channel. So it's been all over the place, but in a good way. How
Yeah,
about
no,
yourself?
you definitely got a lot going on. You're always a busy guy, and I wanna get into all of that, but I want to get into wrestling first.
Mhm.
And mainly because you don't have a crazy like long amount of wrestling experience. So I want to
Mhm.
get into how you initially started wrestling.
Okay.
So how did you initially get into wrestling?
So basically, how that started was first I was gonna try it out my sophomore year, and because I was like I was basically like fighting like a shithead like with some of my friends or whatever in the streets. I'm like, oh, you should wrestle, and I was like, I ain't gonna do that shit, bro. Like I don't need to do that. But then I had seen at first I've seen like Bellator fights and whatnot like on the TV, like back with the old Dish TV, Direct TV network and whatnot. I've seen like some old replays of Bellator fights, and then I had seen Frankie Edgar versus Jose Aldo. It was like a rerun of that fight, the first fight that they had, and then going to like a GameStop, and I think it might have been Undisputed at the time. It might have been Undisputed 3 or whatever free game that they had at the time. I'm pretty sure it was Undisputed 3, and I was playing that game. But mainly when I was watching Aldo and Frankie Edgar, I'm like, man, these guys are like, they're not like the biggest dudes, but they're fighting and they can like make a living off of this. Like, this is really cool. Like, how can I do that? I want to do kickboxing. My mom was like, absolutely fucking not. You're not doing no damn kickboxing. We don't have the money for that shit. I said, damn.
Yeah.
And then my boy said, like, go wrestle. I really signed up to wrestle. It was my junior year of high school. So that's like super fucking late, but I ain't no bitch. So I go over there. I do it. I beat up a bunch of the JV guys. And then I had my neighbor who's like a 3-sport athlete named Romero Bradley, a good friend of mine to this day. He's in the army now. And we did like the wrestle off. So I won my first 2 wrestle offs against like whatever the backups were. I'm like, all right. And then he teched me for the wrestle off. I didn't even know what the fuck a tech was. I'm like, what the fuck you mean the match is over? I wasn't pinned. Like the match isn't over. And then from there, I think some people thought, oh, he's gonna go quit or something. I was like, absolutely not. Like this is fucking cool. Like this is actually the coolest part about it was like there was so much I didn't know. And it was, when you're not somebody that gets involved in the combat sport, it's easy to go and say, oh, well, that guy looks strong, or this guy has this appearance, like they should win this fight. But there's so much that goes into developing a skill set that I just pretty much fell in love with when it came to wrestling. So that got me onto wrestling, and then wrestling has done so much for me, and now got to bring in the joy, passing along grappling in general. So that's pretty much how it all started. Yeah.
So you go through high school wrestling only 2 years, I believe, and then you go
Yep.
through your entire college career, and then you graduate and you become a coach. What like inspired you to get into coaching, to start coaching the younger generation of wrestlers, and you coach at your old college, if I'm
Yeah.
correct.
Yep. So basically, what a lot of people don't know is the time I started my YouTube channel was when I had like a really, really bad severe injury that happened to my left knee. So it took me out of like commission. So kind of like in the wrestling. So I qualified for nationals twice for JUCO, right? So it was 17, 18. And a buddy of mine was a D1 wrestler over at Southern Illinois University Edwardsville. Jeremy Spates was his coach. And he just qualified for like the D1 NCAAs, right? So him and I were wrestling with each other. So mind you, I'm already kind of like done my season, but him and I are going like back and forth. So like he's like, damn, bro, like you gotta come over here. Like once I graduate, like you gotta come over here and take my spot because then you could go to D1 NCAAs, right? And I'm like, fuck yeah, like the D1. I'm like, holy shit, I'm actually gonna make the D1 dream. Like I that wasn't never, I didn't grow up doing the sports. I'm like, oh, that's just cool. I can hang with anybody. I beat D1 guys already before, so I already knew I can hang with anybody. But what ended up happening was I think it was at the New York Athletic Club, and there was a D1 guy, 2-time state champ, that wasn't too kind of me kind of beating on him a little bit. And
Mm-hmm.
I to this day, like I don't know if it was intentional or not. Like, part of me feels like it was, part of it wasn't. But we kind of got into a scramble, and he had like drove his head into my knee way more than like it needed to be done, and I just heard it rupture. Like it was like ruptured bad, LCL and MCL. So that took me out. And I'd already been kind of like dabbling with the YouTube a little bit, just like playing. Like I already had a channel, but I didn't really upload anything on it. But that pretty much shot everything down, like from that point, because you're trying to transfer, but like if you're injured, like how are you gonna go to college trying to wrestle at a collegiate level when you're like your knee's out of commission? So now I could still like after like 2-3 months, I could kind of like roll again, but I wasn't even close to like being the same. Like I could beat up guys I could beat, but I wasn't remotely close to being the same. So it took a long time to recover from that. And from in that time that I wasn't like in good form, I was coaching at the high school. Like I was volunteer coaching at one of my coaches clubs
Mm-hmm.
and alongside him. So I was pretty much almost like I don't know what the term would be, like almost like an internship, but not really an internship. Like it was just under him coaching. So his style of coaching rubbed off on me because he obviously taught me how to like become a. He was one of the main influences on me learning on top of two other people. And then I was able to like help guys in high school. One guy also being a late starter, didn't start to his freshman year. He became an all-state wrestler by his senior year. Right. So then I started to develop a system molded off of how I was taught, but then making some adjustments because I knew that because I started late, there were certain things that were missed out because there's a certain expectation to like
Mm-hmm.
get things because I didn't start the sport at a certain time. So with those type of adjustments, I already had experience of like helping guys who were like lesser technique than guys who've been doing it their whole life, but I was able to kind of like help jump their level at the high school level. And then before I came to the college, my best friend, the one that passed away, he didn't have like the best training partners up at the college at the time. So I wasn't like again, like I was still kind of banged up, but I could still wrestle at a certain point after a year or two. So he would come down and wrestle with me. And then he'd be like, dude, like I need you as a college part, like I need you as my practice partner. I'm like, bro, I'm done wrestling, bro. Like my knee's done. Like I'm not the same as I was before. And but I would give him advice before his competition.
Mm-hmm.
And I would be like, oh, okay, we scout this guy, you this, okay, this is what he did to get you. And then after that, like he beat those guys the next time he ran into him. So then from there, obviously, then the coach reached out to me because he's like, "Who the fuck is this guy in the middle of New York City, like helping out his athlete come back and then beat guys that he was having a hard time with before?" And from there, so when I graduated after like COVID and everything, and then like my own litany of injuries and sickness, I've already experienced like the highs and lows, especially like not being able to do what I wanted to do,
Mm-hmm.
but which was okay for me because I'm like, this was never, I didn't grow up like having the dream of being an NCAA champion. That was just kind of like a byproduct. I really got into wrestling for fighting. Like that's why I got into wrestling is to become a better fighter. Everything else is
Yeah.
pretty much a bonus byproduct that came of it because I guess I got better at it than I thought. So when it came to transitioning to coaching, I've like seen coaches I don't like. I've seen philosophies that I feel only work towards talented individuals.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, the main takeaway that I took from coaching is that it's easy to say you're a good coach if you take somebody that was already developed and they're already good, right? If they're already good, they're going to be able to adjust relatively quickly. It doesn't matter where room that you put them in. It's really important to me as a coach. Like, how do you get somebody that was not that good to make them good? And I think that shows a better ability of being able to coach. So that's where it was. We had a lot of good success this year. My first year coaching, had my first All-American,
Mm-hmm.
like my first year coaching at the college level. And it's been 5 years since we had an All-American. I was supposed to be the one of them, but it is what it is. But it was cool to make it happen over in Wisconsin. Like, fucking hell yeah, we got it done. And I have a couple records I want to break before I finish up coaching. I'm supposed to be trying to get a fight over the summer. Still figuring out how all that stuff's working because of old commission stuff and New York State law and yada yada yada. But it's been cool. It's been cool. Like coaching, it was just a natural thing. It just kind of worked out. And the same time that I was coaching like high school level, that's how my instructionals came about because I was approaching my instructionals on the EAUFC side the same way that I was coaching. And then that's how people were able to learn from my stuff.
Yeah, and a lot of people do love your instructionals on UFC. That's a big part of why you're a bigger content creator. So being a new coach, how important is it to take advice from like the older guys? Like you said, I know you mentioned there's coaches you don't like and you see certain philosophies, you're like, what is that?
Mhm.
But how do you take the good things and like develop it into your own coaching?
So you kind of, and for me, I'm a bit, maybe because of me having ADHD or something, I can visualize certain things. I can kind of like see things a little bit differently than most people. but from experience, like seeing how like a person reacts when you talk to them a certain way, with like when you give them a certain bit of advice. I think the highest thing that I've seen, like the best thing I've seen, is like when coaches coach to their athlete's strengths and then they develop their strengths, they weed out the weaknesses, but they don't like see, okay, somebody has a natural inclination to do something, right? A
Mm-hmm.
lot of coaches will shy away. Hey, don't do this shit. You have to only do this, and then to try to put them in this like box. So I'll tell you, one of the high schoolers I work with, right? She's only been wrestling for 4 months.
Yeah. Oh,
Four
okay.
months. Okay, 4 months.
Uh-huh.
So just hear me out. But in jujitsu, he's been doing jujitsu for a long time, and that the first thing that I did was I wanted him to eliminate the myth in his head about wrestling and jujitsu are so different. I wanted
Mm.
him to eliminate that shit out of his head because it's a fucking lie. It's just different rule set. It's grappling is grappling, and I wanted him to understand that. And I had been working with him for his wrestling for jujitsu in the past, like like 2 years or so. Like not all the time, but like every time I got a chance to.
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to finally coach him one time, and he had a good high school season. I wasn't part of the high school staff. I was part of college over the college. So I wasn't able to be there with him for that. But me being able to actually coach him for the first time in an off season, he
Mm-hmm.
was. I was talking to one of my former coaches because it was a big event going on at the college. I look over to my right, and I see he's losing. Right, he's losing to a returning state qualifier. So I look over at one of my old coaches. I'm like, hold on, I'm gonna go save him from himself real quick because these coaches, the team that he was wrestling for, they don't know him. So
Yeah.
I'm hearing the generic stuff. He's not gonna understand that shit, right?
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, yo, listen to me. I'm like, listen to me and only me. And you get talk to my athletes. That's the what I even my college guys. When there's a lot of noise going on, I say, hey, listen to me and only me. That's what I'll tell them. And
Uh-huh.
then he starts listening to me, and instead of like trying to give him all these fucking names and all shit, I'm instructing him piece by piece. Hey, get your hand over on this side, turn your hip down this side, do this. And he goes from losing 4-0 and he beats a returning state qualifier 8-7. So so it works. Like the method I kind of do is just more so I know where his strengths are. Like he likes
Uh-huh.
throwing people. It gets him in trouble sometimes because sometimes he tries to force throws.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna tell him stop throwing people. I'm gonna tell him to do it right. So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of where it's kind of gotten around. Like myself, like I have a couple things that I do that I naturally gravitated to, and thankfully I had a good amount of coaches that outweighed maybe the one or two bad ones that I had that were you know they saw what I was good at, and they're like, all right, we're gonna look to develop this from you because this is what you're already good at doing.
Yeah. So actually, you had already mentioned jiu-jitsu a couple minutes ago, and that's actually the next thing I want to get to. When did you actually start training jiu-jitsu? Because I know you wrestled through college and you started coaching and all of this, but how long have you actually been training jiu-jitsu?
If we don't, we got to count because I during the season I obviously take like 4 months off of jujitsu because I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't like training jujitsu in that time. So now it's been about like 2 years or 2 years and like 6 months or so. So 2 years and a half
Mm-hmm.
or so. So it's the thing was about the jujitsu stuff was that I'm somebody I'm keen on like social things, right? I'm keen on social stigma. So I know when wrestlers go to certain gyms, some gyms aren't too fond of wrestlers or whatever reason, however they are. And I'm not gonna go to a random gym that's going to go and try to snap my neck because I fucking took down their guy. And I was
Mm.
already aware of MMA stuff. I've helped out like fighters and whatnot. One of my former training partners made to UFC. He got cut, but he still made it there. All that being said, he was fought for Uzbekistan's and Rukadashev. But like I've been a part of like those type of camps and whatnot, helping out guys that were in Bellator, in the UFC, et cetera, et cetera. So it wasn't anything new to me. Even Dylan Dennis too, believe it or not. But I with jujitsu, I once I kind of found a gym, I'm like, okay. I see the philosophy. I'm okay. I can work here in this gym. The person I had met, he was working on the house I used to live at before. I saw his ears. I'm like, okay, he has cauliflower. Saw jujitsu, the Oniana jujitsu name on his sweater. I'm like, oh shit, this guy grapples. I'm like, you spot like a build of a grappler, like, oh, that guy grapples.
Mm.
And then like he was like, yo, I'll bring you in for like a session or whatever, right? And then I worked with him, and then I was flowing with him. I'm like, yo, like this is the guy I can learn jujitsu from. I can learn jujitsu from him. Like, and then
Mm.
that's how it kind of all kick started. And then just kind of figuring out, I'm big on learning on what not to do. like learning what to do is easy. What
Mhm.
not to do is a lot harder because it takes a lot more discipline to do this, to not do the stuff. Everybody wants to learn like flying arm bars and flying triangles and heel hooks right away. But I'm like, listen, I'm not trying to be like some of these fighters that have way better wrestling credentials than I do, but they're still making like, I would say like maybe peewee or white belt level mistakes on the ground against credentialed grapplers because they're so stuck on their wrestling being the best thing ever.
Mhm.
So I made sure that in my approach to jujitsu, I'm like, let me learn all the stuff I'm not supposed to do. Let me refine the fundamentals, and I'm gonna take my time. I'm not gonna be in a rush, but I'm gonna make sure I refine everything accordingly.
So that actually beautifully gets me into my next question, and currently something I'm trying to do, because when I was looking for a gym, I was looking for a gym that was kind of like wrestler friendly too.
Mhm.
Not that I'm no big bad wrestler, but I knew my fundamentals would eventually start to kick back in, which they are
Mhm.
now. And the gym I go to has judo classes every couple of days. So
Judo's
they
nice.
they like the wrestlers coming in. I hate judo.
I
I
love
I
judo.
I like learning it, but I hate when that shit's done to me. I hate getting thrown. I got PTSD, I guess. Thanks for my PTSD, by the way.
I do.
But but transitioning, like, how do you go about transitioning your high level wrestling into jiu-jitsu and now being a blue belt?
I mean, there was a running joke in the gym. They're like, all right, Romero's got his blue belt. Let's see if we'll give him his purple belt next week because I already kind of I've already kind of got a couple of things down. But um, for me, it wasn't that hard. Okay, so here's the thing. Because I didn't grow up wrestling, I
Mm-hmm.
like to say that I had like a clean slate. So there was like less room for bad mistakes or bad habits to form from wrestling. I still had like some because if you don't go through like a great rigorous program or whatnot, there's certain things you're going to develop on your own. And if you don't
Yeah.
have coaches that are going to spot that right away, it's going to be hard for you to lose those mistakes. And then it's also on the athlete themselves. So like anybody, I make mistakes like anybody else. But for example, like I didn't realize until much later, like a lot of the takedowns I like to hit, like slide bys and Russians, like a lot of that's judo stuff. So like judo, I mean, you had Josiah Fry on the podcast, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny because me, obviously, I was coaching when when I watched him win his second national title, and I was just like laughing because I'm like, he's fucking all these guys up with judo. All like he has great shots. Like he's a fantastic athlete, bro. But
Mm.
what was cracking me up was like I seen like dude he would get a 2-on-1, like a Russian 2-on-1 on some of
Mm-hmm.
these guys, and they did not know what to do. And I'm like, you guys are at the NCAA tournament, and you're telling me your coaches have not told you how to defend a Russian properly.
Well, that was a
So
big thing that, like, he was telling me that, like, that's how he runs through these guys, because, like, he's using, like, judo things that they don't see every day.
mhm.
Like they see a double leg every single day. Like, they're gonna defend that like the back of their hand, but like they don't see these judo throws every single day in practices and with training partners, because there's not a judo guy in every single program. So like
That's where I
that
lucked out.
yeah, so he's just fucking these guys up with judo throws.
Yeah. So the thing was, so before I got the spot back, well, I didn't lose the spot, but it was like an early match. One of my former teammates, good friend of mine, I ended up beating him up like later, but he actually beat me in a match where it was tied 1-1,
Mm-hmm.
and he hit me with a judo throw with like 5-6 seconds left. And but also he was a 6-time judo national champ.
Mm.
And so me, how my mind operates, I'm like, I didn't go, oh, he just caught me, whatever. I'm gonna go. I was like, damn, man, he got me good. Like that was a real good throw. And we continue training because that's my teammate, right? And then
Yeah.
through grappling with him, and he coaches now judo at a jiu-jitsu gym over in Jersey. So he's a really good friend of mine. And I learned a lot of judo grappling with him. So for me, judo doesn't throw me out. There's black belt judo guys at the gym I go to, and they get caught off guard. They're like, "Oh man, like I try to off balance you doing some judo stuff, and like, it doesn't get you as much as I get the other wrestlers." I'm like, "Well, one of my teammates was a black belt in judo, and I learned the hard way very early. So I learned how to like maneuver. I learned how to maneuver certain judo things, not everything, but I know a good amount that I can hold myself up against really good judo guys in both judo and wrestling. Although them fucking gi grips, when they get a hold of your gi, I had to develop my own way how to deal with that stuff because they are good when they pull them bucket grips and then foot sweep, boom, when they turn. It's beautiful. Like it's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Especially if you
Yeah.
get hit with a good one.
Yeah, I like to talk a lot of shit, especially about hip tosses, and say that like if you're trying to hip toss me, it's just gonna be a bad day. But like a judo hip toss is like you're gonna get thrown. Like it's just like
Yeah,
there's no defending it. And I try to hug and I try to turn and it's just there's no defending
you gotta
that.
go with it. You gotta go like you gotta go almost. You gotta take the momentum through with it, and it's hard. It's hard. It's hard. Like if you're getting tossed, the more you try to as at a certain point, the more you try to resist it, the more you're gonna cement yourself. Once you
Mm,
see yourself going in the air, you gotta like you see yourself going, you gotta try to time that momentum and taking it over. And it's hard,
yeah,
but
like
it's doable.
coming from like a simple headlock position, it's easy. But
Mhm.
like coming from gi grips, it's like the gi grips change everything. Like that's
Yeah.
why no gi and gi are just like so like far apart in on like competition scales. Which I want to get into next. You actually said you're competing soon,
Mhm.
and you said you're competing in no gi and gi.
Yeah, I did. I do gi and no gi.
So I figured you would do gi because of the wrestling, no gi because of the wrestling experience, and then obviously gi because that's what you train every day. You know, I have been at the gym, and now, how are you going about getting ready for the competition?
Nothing changes.
Not,
Like it's the same. It's pretty much the same thing as like I have my set things that I like to do from certain positions. Like, I'll get into positions. I'll play. I'll start some matches. Like I'll put myself in a horrible position. Like I like to start on my back. I'll let somebody get a grip on me or something. Just to like I like to do what's called find the point of no return,
mm-hmm,
which is like, all right, this is where I gotta tap if I get to this point, and how can I find that one little bit of space that I can like escape from and then create a scramble from there. So that's why I like to do like my own personal situationals there. But like from the gi, like how I won gold in like the gi thing I did last time, I foot swept the guy because they hear wrestler, they're like, oh, shots, double legs and
mm-hmm.
shit. So same thing with like what Josiah was saying, like, oh, they're all everybody expects a double leg and a single. I'm like, I fucking foot swept the motherfucker. Foot swept, and they're like, oh shit, they turned into side control and took their back and you know.
So
So
now I'm sorry to cut you off. Now, the last competition you competed in, did you compete at white belt or did you compete at blue belt because of your college experience?
so they didn't let me do blue belt gi. They didn't but they let me do blue belt no gi.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And I didn't have a single point scored on me. So but
That
the funny part was is that I didn't get a single break. Like basically I had no break between any of my matches. So I was like, one guy I beat this guy 16-0. He's a purple belt. He literally got his purple belt like the next month after. I'm like, I smoked this guy like 16-0. And another guy that's fighting, he's like a top 10 bantamweight fighter, and I beat him in a match too, like here
mhm.
in the amateurs. Him and I are real cool. We actually have a lot of mutual friends. He was a fun match, but it was funny because he's like, man, I thought you would be. I saw you like do your last match, and I saw they didn't give you a chance to go. So I thought I could push the pace on you and get you tired, but you did not get tired. I'm like, oh, believe me, I'm like definitely a little bit fatigued, but I have a really good poker face and I have a good gas tank. But the match I had like whatever lost was like a referee's decision match, and
Mhm.
it was against a kid that he's fucking awesome. Because I helped coach him in wrestling. I'm actually gonna be helping him out with his wrestling over the summer. But like him and I went against each other in like the no gi blue belt finals, and I like literally all I could have just done was just run around him if I wanted to, or just not engage. But I was like, man, whatever. Last match of the day, I'm gonna go fuck around in guard and let's see what happens and whatnot. So I just stayed in guard. Then I was about to pass, and then the ref was just referee's decision. We'll give it to the younger man. And then he looked at me. He's like, I thought you won. I was like, whatever. Who cares? It's just
That's
fucking
crazy.
competition. Yeah, because
Yeah.
grappling industries is like notorious for having like almost like a if it's like 0-0 at the end of the match, it's almost like a coin toss, and then it's up to the referee who they think decides to win.
Mhm.
Like it's a weird thing. Like they'll have somebody that isn't doing anything, and they'll be like, oh well, he's on his back, so it's not this. I'm like, he's not doing shit but getting smashed and can openered on and everything, and I'm no danger whatsoever. So that was like that was weird. But yeah, I had like no points scored on me the entire time. I always say this though. I always expect to get scored on. Like never think that you're gonna go into a competition that you're gonna be invincible. I think it's a dumb mistake to like think that you're gonna smash everybody.
Mhm.
I think it's one thing to have confidence that you'll win. To go and say that you smash everybody and expect to not have any points scored on you, it's a little bit different. I just try to like focus on what's ahead of me, and I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna go do what I do already in the practice room. Like nothing's gonna change from there. I find the positions that I'm comfortable in, and we get there. If I see a position I don't like, get the fuck out of there.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So, do you expect to win gold in both no gi and gi this time around?
Yeah, I expect it. I expect it. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But I expect it.
So you also said you're looking at, unless I misheard, but you mentioned possibly looking at a fight this summer.
Yeah,
And you had mentioned to me, after our match, off camera, that you were looking to start MMA real soon.
yeah.
How has that been going? Transitioning into training MMA and like getting sessions in, and
Hasn't changed. It's been a process for like quite some time. The promise I had made to like my mom, I was like, I had to graduate college first before fighting. So that was
mm,
like a promise I kept to her. So once I graduated, I'm like, all right, now I can go and do this. I'm actually going up to at a gym upstate where the Cage Wars heavyweight Cage War, I think that's what Cage Wars here in New York or whatnot. Their
mm.
heavyweight champion was an alumni from our college. So he's like their heavyweight champion. So he's like,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
girl, come up here, stay up with us, train with us for a bit. So I'm gonna go stay up with him because he knows all the promoters and shit. So I'm trying to like be very active this second half of 2024. Like I want to get amateur fight out the way because there's a rule in New York that I think you can't do ground and pound your first fight or two. You're not
Mm-hmm.
allowed to do ground and pound. So once you take the person down, it's like basically a jujitsu match essentially. So I'm like, that's gonna suck. So I want to get that out the way. And then once I do that, I want to like 4 or 5 amateur ones, and then transition to pro at least by 2025 or close or like halfway through 2025. Just transition to pro and then just be smart about where I need to do from there. But first things first is just handling the amateur fights because everybody, you don't know who can be the amateur. Like you gotta treat it with the same level of respect. That like don't expect everybody's gonna be a scrub. Don't expect everybody's gonna be God himself. But you just approach it the way that you're gonna approach anything else. So
Mm.
I'm excited for it. But we tried booking some shit last summer, and unfortunately my opponents pulled out, so that kind of sucked. So I mean, once everything's booked official and there's like no pullouts, you guys will definitely see me post about it a little bit more. Sometimes I'm like, I don't want to post something and then shit gets fucking canceled. You know,
Mm.
it's disappointing when shit like that happens.
Yeah.
So
Well, wait. Well, wait.
third time's a charm is what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, hopefully it actually gets booked. I'm rooting for it too. I would love to see that. What weight
Mm-hmm.
would you be fighting at?
It'd be 135.
35. Okay, so bantamweight.
Mm-hmm.
So we know all about your like grappling, and you're a very accomplished wrestler and jiu-jitsu practitioner. What about striking? What do you do to work on your striking? Are there boxing programs that you're a part of? Are there kickboxing programs that you're a part of? I know you said earlier that you wanted to do kickboxing, but mom said absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
Are there Muay Thai programs that you're a part of? Maybe what do you or have you been doing to learn the striking side of MMA?
So when I was in wrestling in high school, an alumni from my high school had like a boxing gym
Mm,
that was like 10 minutes away from the high school. So I was boxing during my senior year. Didn't do any like boxing matches. Like obviously did like, gym mat what's the term? Smokers and shit like that. You go
mm,
up to another gym and it's unofficial and go beat up a couple guys and whatnot to see where you stand. There was this one guy from like suffering. He was good. Like he got me like real good. Like it was real tight. Cause I was like, fuck, man, that was a fucking war. And then I realized I'm like, man, I should not be getting into fucking wars. I gotta be smarter with my defense instead of getting wars. And that was like way back. That's when I decided I gotta be smarter. I can't let myself get into like stupid dog fights like that.
mm,
And but I loved it though. That was the hard part. Like you love that shit. Like there's a feeling that you get when you're like, oh, okay, we're gonna fucking throw down right here. But that's not what the gym is meant for. The gym is meant for development. And
mm,
thankfully, I realized it right after that. After I was like, man, that may have been cool, but that was not really beneficial to my development as a striker. That's more like that was too egoish. I felt like from both of us. And then obviously like got better from there. Kickboxing wise, my one of my kickboxing coaches during COVID, before I went up to the college, way before he has a gym, he's actually opened up another gym over in New Jersey.
mm,
He is a 6-time national champion from Albania, Coach Ricky. And like I knew him. I saw he was teaching. Like people were like, oh yeah, he's this guy. I'm like, I know Romero. I know like a couple good guys and whatnot. So like, let's go see if he's legit. So I'm like, oh, he's legit. I'm like, I see how he's teaching. His English wasn't as good as it is now, but I'm like, he's legit. Like I know it. He's legit. and then now he like actually runs one of the MMA promotions, RFC, Rigoro Fight Promotions down in New York. He fucking loves me. And anytime like you bring me up, he's like, he fucking loves me. He's like, Anthony, I need Anthony here now. I go down there sometimes and I help out some of their MMA guys for like their camps or like wrestling whenever if I'm around the area and shit. But I did a lot of kickboxing with Coach Ricky. Like I'll be the guy to spar with like their guys to go and do before they win their kickboxing national titles or like state titles and stuff. So it's been my kickboxing's pretty been up there. Henry Hooft saw me work a little bit. And he was like, "You need to come down to Florida." So that was a pretty good compliment from Henry Hooft, and you know he's Usman's coach and shit. So like I said, people are gonna be they're gonna be surprised. Is all. That's all.
Yeah, no, for sure. Because I feel like your striking is definitely hidden now that you've told me that like you've been striking since like high school. So like your striking, it sounds like it's longer than your wrestling experience and your grappling.
No, it's
similar
about
to the same.
It's a little bit less than grappling because grappling I've had more of a direct focus towards it.
Yeah.
But it's been longer than it's not just okay, I just strike to go in the gym and then just go back to wrestling. I don't think that doesn't help guys out. You feel me?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, I feel you. So you've mentioned a lot of different names and you've trained with like a lot of like studs, if you would. Somebody that you've trained with is RBY from Penn State.
Yep.
Can you kind of go about some of your relationships with like these top athletes and name a couple more or some fighters that you've trained with and things like that, and kind of like explain those experiences and things they've passed to you to kind of use in your own game?
There's a lot, but I'll start with Roman because Roman's my boy. That guy's it's funny because he actually hit me up on Twitter talking shit. But actually no. First it was me helping him out with like setting up a stream for Call of Duty. And I'm like, and I already knew who he was. I'm like, is this some bullshit like spam account? And I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm like, oh, I know who this is. This is fucking he wasn't an NCAA champion. He was an All-American, but he wasn't an NCAA champion. So I wanted to help him out. And then he goes and he's like, yo, I bet y'all smoking UFC. And I was like, bro, I got a better chance of beating you in a wrestling match before you could ever touch me in UFC. Okay. So he was talking mad shit. So I said, bro, I'm about to smoke you. So I beat the shit out of him. He sucked in the game, obviously. Yeah. And he goes, wait, bro, I got my teammates. He's like, my teammates want to play you. I said, all right, word. So the guy who just won his 4th NCAA title, Aaron Brooks, like he's a 4-time NCAA champion. Aaron wants to play me, and then I beat Aaron. He's like, "What the fuck?" And he's like, "Wait, I got another friend." And it's the guy, my boy Greg Kirkley, who won his first NCAA title at heavyweight. He's playing me. He's like, "Yo, what the fuck?" Lo and behold, these guys watch my videos. So they watch my videos and shit, which is like real cool that my channel was like reached like those guys and whatnot. And then I think it was just like real cool because I got to like bond with these dudes. Is like, oh shit, like they're my fucking boys. Especially when I got to go over there, meet them all in person, train with them. I got the insight into their philosophy, how they train. It was like the real cool part. The work ethic that Roman has is like insane. There's a lot when I say like a lot of people project their insecurities when it comes down to how hard a person works. You definitely see it when you see like how hard this dude works. Like he's in Cali right now. Like he was over at the fights with where Alex Perez just knocked out Mateus Nicolau, right? He was over at those fights and whatnot. So he's like 3 hours behind. I just finished up like I did my lift and then my hot yoga and shit like that. So he's like 3 hours behind. I go check Snapchat and the dude's just fucking like spent, like doing like a morning workout, finishing up at 8 a.m. So like, and that's consistent work. Case in point, like remember his wrestling is like way better than mine, right? So if I get like 2 takedowns at the time, and he's already scored like probably like 15, 20 on me. But the point that he wanted to get is like you just got to keep it going. Like you got to keep wrestling. Doesn't matter how many takedowns you get. Doesn't matter where you go to. You got to keep going to positions and keep improving on those positions when you get fatigued. And that's why like I thank him so much for that shit. It's fucking awesome. But I remember like we'd go just grapple for like an hour 20. Then we'd like transition to like jiu-jitsu and shit. Then we'll like fuck around, like get takedowns by like the wall over at Penn State and shit. And then afterwards, one time he had us do like 100 pull-ups, 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups after doing all that shit. Or we'd hit like the stairs and stuff. And it's just like loving like that type of a lot of people like call it a grind when you do that type of like work. but it's just straight. If you love it, if you love that passion for it, then it's not really a grind. It's just something that you have to set out and do. And if you know that it's something that you need to do, it feels less of like a job. It's just like, bro, if you know that you're meant to do something, you're meant to do it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So like that's how, pretty much, and that's a consistent thing with any other person that I've worked with. They want it. Like they want, it's corny to say, like I know it's like the cliche shit, but it's like they legitimately want what's best for themselves. And I say that the little caveat with Roman too is that he wants everybody around him to elevate themselves too. Like everybody around him, he's big on bringing up the people around him, and that's the stuff that I'm big on too. A lot of my friends are like that. Like we're big on like pushing each other, making sure that we get to where we want to be, making sure that we do what we got to do to get to our goals, no matter how we get there. So that's the type of people I like to have around me too. So he's awesome. Like Roman's awesome, and he's competing at the Olympics for Mexico. So I'm hoping my boy gets a gold medal. I'll be so happy for him if he does it. It'll be fucking awesome.
Yeah, no, that's actually awesome. During my high school era, I was a absolute Penn State hater. Everybody on my team was straight Iowa. And then after high school, I was a big Spencer Lee guy.
Mm-hmm.
So I still enjoyed Iowa, but Penn State got all killers. There's straight murderers that come out of Penn State. It's straight insanity, and all of their work ethics are insane. I was talking to somebody else earlier, and a purple belt, and he said that RBY had a insane just mental about working and just his ethic in general.
Yeah, his him coming from like a hard background like myself is like probably is a big reason how we kind of bonded. Because
Mm,
one thing that like people don't see, like a lot of like bigger wrestlers, they're kind of, so there's like a pipeline, right? Think of like a pipeline, right? If you grow up wrestling and your mom and your dad and your da 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 did wrestling or whatever, uncle did wrestling, and they have a connection here, there's a consistency with a good amount of like said All Americans or like champions. Like that's what they were expected to do, their family lineage. And maybe you could say that because Roman's grandpa, his grandpa is awesome too. I love his grandpa. Um, but like his situation, like he was in Arizona and Tucson, and he had all the bad shit going around. I'm from the city. I had mad bad shit going on around that, and then in Dominican Republic, I seen some fucked up shit. So like stuff like that, like seeing somebody that made it that far, seeing bad shit and not getting drawn into like the bad stuff, like you can bond on some real shit with stuff like that. So that's why he has like a special like degree of respect from me, because it's cool to see somebody else make it from like where it can be very very easy to get caught up in some wrong shit, you know.
yeah, definitely for sure. So now I kind of want to take a complete turn away
Hmm.
from wrestling, away from fighting, away from striking. I want to
Yeah.
jump into content. You had originally said that you started content because of a knee injury, and you
Yeah.
really dove into it.
Hmm.
What kind of outside of the injury inspired you to continue growing the channel, and who are some of your big inspirations in content as well?
Okay. So when I was playing the games of like say UFC 2, right? And like I played the end cycle of that game, and I was playing that shit, and I was like, man, like these games got to be like a little bit more realistic. Because like the tech, like so I was already playing in a way where like I was trying to be as like authentic to the fighter as possible,
Hmm.
which is like everybody knows Marshall Mind's channel, so obviously like see him me being able to see him do some stuff like that. I saw him on I actually ran into him, and I always give him shit about it because now he says Romero fucks me up all the time. I thought he sucked, and now he fucking like he beats me up all the fucking time or whatever. But I remember I ran into him. It was like a TJ Dillashaw mirror match. I kicked my younger brothers out the room. I'm like, oh, this is the motherfucker from YouTube. I'm gonna kick his fucking ass. It was like 2-2 heading into the fifth round, and he fucking knocks me out with that stupid combo he loves so much. And then with UFC 3, I'm like, well, if EA is making like a realistic game or something, then certain realistic tactics need to work. And and the way like I was just like when I was playing the game as they like were patching stuff and fixing stuff, and I was big on like so many people were complaining about certain things, right? So I'm a type of person where I try to like fix stuff essentially, or I try to like find stuff. And I found a lot of the counters that people do nowadays, like my Counter Striking video from like way back, I took my time to go in the lab, and I made it based on realizing that like the concept of vulnerability is not too dissimilar from wrestling, right? If you get caught early trying to shoot for a shot, it's the best time to get pancaked. Or if you're at the end of your shot, the end of the momentum of the shot, that is the best time to hit a reattack. And you see that like time and time again proven by film. Then when I watch fights, right? I was watching the concept of vulnerability in fights. Somebody's going forward, they whiff going forward, and you nail them with a counter. Not always does it put somebody out, but you recognize that it stings them. Or you catch somebody right before they're about to do an action, right? It stops them worse. Gilbert Burns versus Kamaru Usman much later, obviously way past UFC 3, right? He's timing Gilbert Burns as he's bouncing. And right before Gilbert Burns is about to throw a leg kick where his feet are in an unathletic position, Kamaru Usman jabs him because he doesn't have a good base. Early frame in the video game terms, we would say early frames of vulnerability. He just hit him with like a jab at peak vulnerability and he stunned him, right? So when I was with my channel, my goal wasn't like to have a super big channel, not at all. My goal of my channel was just like I'm trying to get people to enjoy the game as much as I'm enjoying it, get everybody better, like have everybody at a level. Because one thing that pissed me off for like the EA games was that they had, and they obviously heard enough about me in Vancouver, because like in Vancouver they they like very complimentary towards me, and they also express the same thing, like you found all this stuff like on your own, but we want to make it to where like everybody else doesn't have to do the hours that you put in to find all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, that's fair, would have saved me some fucking time. Right? So that's where I wanted everybody to like, instead of like just like, oh, whatever, I got caught and I lost. All right, first we're gonna exhaust our options to figure out, why is this working? Is it realistic as to why this is working? If it is realistic why this is working, what's a realistic counter to why this is working? If an unrealistic counter is the only way to stop this, and that means there's an unrealistic property as to why this is not working. And that's how my mind worked. And I remember one time, like the question mark kick, right?
Yeah.
So I was sparring one of my boys. That was when they still had the UFC gym before it closed down.
Okay.
And I was just like, he kept pulling. He kept pulling his head back. So I wasn't able to really. I was trying to like get a certain like punch on him or whatnot. So I started attacking his body with the body kick, and then like my video game brain turned on. I'm like, hold on, let me see if let me try this shit real quick. And I did a question mark kick, so I faked real low, and he went to pull and I gave a little feint with the shoulder. Man pulled his head back, whacked him like on the side of the head. He's like, ah, fuck, and I caught him while he was pulling. So I was like, let me try that shit in the game. And I was using Aljamain Sterling. I might have been playing against GOAT. And I think that's how I beat him in UFC 3. It might have been GOAT or Vader, one of those two guys. And I just went and I tried to question mark kick because they were trying to pull. They saw the question mark kick, and then as they tried to pull, it whacked them on the side of the head as they were trying to pull from too close of a range. And I was like, oh, I'm cooking something here. And then I posted on Operation Sports, and one of the devs were like, how the fuck did you figure that out? I'm like, well, if it makes sense in real life, then it should work in the game. But honestly, like the whole point of my channel, like a lot of people content creation wise, like what I noticed from like other video games, right? They like to milk, which makes sense, right? Like, they try to milk stuff for views, et cetera, and try to like do stuff for like Tekken, Soul Calibur, but the best tutorials I saw were like tutorials that you had to keep coming back to. Right, that like had everything, almost everything was already in one, what you need to do, or at least there was a consistent list. So I wanted like my tutorials to be like, I don't need to go and do everything like a 10-part video, like everything's here in like a specific volume of stuff. And then it's solely up to you, the player. You have to hold yourself accountable if you're going to get the proper reps in, much like wrestling. I can show you a move, but if you don't fucking get the reps in, how do I expect you to do it in competition if you're not getting the reps in to do the move, right? So when people ask me like, how you doing all the counters and shit like that, I'm like, well, I took my time to practice them. I practice them on quick fight against live competition, and then I go and do it against the best players in the world, because that's how things work in real life. So that's how it should work when I'm practicing stuff. So that's pretty much everything that I do on my channel is just, all right, how does this work in practice? How can I explain it to people so they understand it? And I think the hardest thing I'd say channel-wise is when people don't understand the concept of risk assessment. Like, for example, like if I shoot a single, right, on somebody in jiu-jitsu, how I was taught that single is going to affect how effective that single leg is going to be. I've taken on plenty of good jiu-jitsu guys for the single leg, and most people will say, well, what if they guillotine you? I have a really good single leg. I know how to position my head so I don't get guillotined. Even if for some reason I mess up that position, that is a risk that I am taking, and then I have to adjust on myself. That's all fighting is. You think like there's always a chance you're gonna get knocked out. There's always a chance that the person's not going to bite. There's a chance. There's a chance. The game is telling you you gotta take those chances. And a lot of people
Yeah.
they want the same thing where it's like a Street Fighter where there's a health bar and it's a guarantee that once you get the health bar to here that it's gonna be over. But in MMA, it's not like that. We'll see guys eat 700 strikes. Like, Calvin Cater ate like how many for Max Holloway?
A lot. Yeah, no, he got battered. So your
Yeah,
content now is mostly tutorials and showcases.
yeah,
And that's the videos that you post. So now
yeah.
how much editing really goes into all of those?
Actually, fun fact, like the editing, I did a lot because I didn't have like the money to like do like super software shit or whatnot. I didn't do because I wasn't about doing all the fancy shit with like a lot of people like they do a lot of fluff with the editing and it doesn't really teach people shit. So like
Yeah.
I had it through a Share Factory. I was doing it through Share Factory when I first started the channel. And Share Factory stopped fucking working, which is bullshit. Like it stopped working for me. And but now like I use Clipchamp and sometimes I use fuck's it called? Clipchamp and then shit that CapCut, whatever, CapCut or whatnot,
Okay.
right? And now I edit it a little bit more. Like I've actually like condensed the editing. Like now I used to speak a lot in the beginning, like breaking down because I love like displaying like knowledge about the fights, like how this is how I'm gonna play the fighter. I'll just tell everybody what I was gonna do, and I did that for like quite some time. And now just to kind of save a little bit of time since I'm busy. Like I just have the game plan. I just write it down, and then as I'm playing, I'm discussing what I'm doing, which is generally the theme, and that's what I enjoy doing. Like it's not if I wanted to just do like a top 10 hit KOs or whatnot, you can like make that all from videos from my channel. It's not that hard to do that stuff. But
Yeah.
I like the MMA fans to enjoy MMA discussion, MMA thought process,
Hmm.
replicating the fighters, and that's like something I've like stayed true to since like the beginning of like my channel, which I'm very very proud about.
Yeah, exactly. Your videos are more like learning and skill based videos. I actually had a discussion the other day with somebody about why I don't do showcases, and I was like, look at the people making fucking showcases. You got Marshall making showcases. You got Romero making showcases. You think I can last fucking 2 to 3 rounds with them? You think I know what they're doing on a hand to hand basis like that in this game? I don't, because I've drifted away from the game so much. I have started playing it recently though because of Uriah Faber. Shout out Uriah Faber. I have a running joke in my community that I'm the only person that asked for him, and so thank me for the addition of Uriah. I asked for him multiple times. However, so when you live stream, you don't only live stream UFC. I've
Yeah,
seen you live streaming a wide variety of games.
yeah, I'm a gamer.
It so yeah, so you do a variety of different gaming content, and do you ever see yourself like making kind of not really maining another game but focusing on another game content wise, or maybe even switching your content more IRL and doing some IRL wrestling content or IRL
That's
jiu-jitsu
probably
content?
that's actually closer to what I'm looking to do next. Like
Mm-hmm.
almost like I mean part of it would have to also do with EA changing a couple like I said, like certain things that we got in mind. But like I want to chain stuff with like what I do in real life into like my showcases in terms of like my game planning and whatnot. So it's gonna take a lot more camera work, it'd take a lot more mic stuff, et cetera, the right type of timing. But in the future, that's where we're looking to go. I am gonna be like, showing clips and then like a lot of people like the what was it, the me grappling with like the black belt, Tristan Connolly, the one that beat Michelle Pereira. Him and I still talk. We were still talking and stuff like that because I showed him a cool little way that like I get people down to the ground by the
Mm.
cage that not a lot of high level UFC fighters know about. And like I showed him it, and he was like, "Bro, like that's fucking nuts." And I was like, "Yeah, I got a little something, something. Like I'm a little bit of a hidden weapon." But I show him it, and he's teaching like the guys in his class on how to do it, and it's like, bro, it's like changed everything for him, which is cool to see. To like have it being able to teach somebody that was just teaching me like cool stuff like K guard and all that other stuff too. But nah, like I like part of why I like the UFC games is like it's like I like fighting, bro. Like I like grappling, I like fighting, I like that's what I love to do in real life. So it makes sense. That's why I started out like the first ever fighting game that I played was Soul Calibur. Like Soul Calibur, yeah, the first Soul Calibur was the first ever like fighting game that I played, like
Mhm.
legit fighting game on a console. And like I love that game, and I got really good at that game. And then I played. I would be stubborn. Like I was like, these guys, these motherfuckers talk about meta. Meta is not a negative thing to say. It just means most effective tactics available. But y'all don't know a meta fighter until y'all see Shanghua and fucking Soul Calibur 2. She was so fucking busted. Like when I tell you I know gaming, I know gaming. You could give my 7-year-old brother Shanghua, and she would probably fuck up some people just fucking just mashing but that's how busted she was. That is true button mashing. So it always like irks me when people that like I'm like, have you played other games where you can legit button mash certain characters and actually get victories in that way? That shit's kind of fucked. But that's a discussion for maybe another time. But
Yeah.
I like those games, but what drew me into the UFC games is like, oh, it's supposed to be like real life. And I enjoy fighting people. I enjoy throwing people in real life. So that's where I enjoy it. But I have my console on right here. Like I have obviously UFC's on here. Lies of P is a game I've been streaming recently. Dead by Daylight's fun as fuck to play. I love playing Dead by Daylight. Texas Chainsaw, they got to do some more patches on this game. Helldivers 2, I haven't played it in a bit. I want to play it again with Mellow Coffee. I have Kingdom Hearts 1.5, 2.5 remix. I actually want to like spend a day like streaming the entire Kingdom Hearts shit. Like if I could have like a group of 10 people just watch me play Kingdom Hearts, I'm so with that. And Outlast 2, I have that. And then I have a bunch of other games too that I can just I finished God of War months ago. Yeah, basically I have a fuck ton shit. I have Tekken 8. I played Tekken 8 on the side of my alt account for reasons that nobody needs to know about. But yeah, I enjoy other games, bro. Like I love playing other games. They have the Elden Ring DLC coming out in June. And then when I play that game, bro, whoo, I love
Yeah,
Elden Ring, bro. I
I
love Soul games.
I've never I have something coming for Elden Ring. Elden Ring's something that like I never actually really tried to tackle, but it's coming for
Bro,
sure.
bro, it's fun.
Um
I
yeah,
love
no,
Soul games.
it's I hate those games, but it'll be fun because of that. It'll be fun because of that. If I can't, those are not my fucking bread and butter at all. I'm a sports game guy. If I got a Madden game in front of me, it's good. If I WWE 2K has been my bread and butter lately, and they just dropped a tennis game,
I
and
love combat.
I don't know shit about tennis, but
Yeah, I love combat.
I'm learning. You love what?
Yeah, I love combat or anything that's like like combat. Like for Kingdom Hearts, even though it's all different forms of combat, like I love combat, but then I also love being scared for my fucking life.
You ever play the
So like,
Yakuza games?
no, I haven't played those yet.
Those
I
are
got
really
may have to
fun.
play it.
Like if you like
What?
fighting, like there's a lot of there. It's all martial arts, and
Say less.
but I've
So
been
yeah,
doing a lot of Street Fighter myself. I feel like those games are
I used to
fire.
I used to love playing those games. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like I love being scared, bro. It's funny as hell just to being able to be like, yo, I'm playing a game and I'm like, I'm shook for my life. I'm like, oh, like that shit is like I enjoy that shit. Like I used to play Dead by Daylight with Goat 1099,
Uh huh.
and yo, we used to be like, yo, you're like, man, I said go. He's like, yo, like it's just like shit like that. That's my type of cup of tea. There's relaxing games I like to play too, but there's like a once in a blue moon. I like thrill of combat, and I like being thrilled being scared for my fucking life.
Yeah, that's like a really solid combination. So we're about to hit an hour. We've gone for a long time.
Did you get
Anything
all
you
your questions
wanna?
though?
Huh?
Did you get all your questions though?
Yeah, we got everything.
Oh,
Anything you want to plug before we get out of here?
uh, honestly, yeah, I got showcases coming out on my channels per usual. We have UFC 301 this weekend, so I got to do a special showcase for Mr. Jose Aldo returning. So that one, pray for my heart. That's obviously one of my favorite fighters, if not my favorite fighter, period. So when he loses, my heart is more prepared for him losing since I've seen him lose a couple times already. But that's how you know if you're a real fan. You don't stick by fighters only when they're winning. You stick by them through the wins and losses. So I'm hoping W. But if I see an L, I might do a reverse Jonathan Martinez showcase where I just find every single Jonathan Martinez and beat them with Aldo, just the same way I did when Max Holloway beat him. Pain. But yeah, I'll have some showcases on my channel. I'll be streaming. I'm gonna be streaming a lot more this month. I streamed a good amount. That's another thing. I don't stream a lot. I don't stream as much because I'm part time. I think people forget about that. I'm a part time YouTuber. Like this is some shit I do on the side for fun. Even with everything I do, with how good I am, whatever at the game, I have the least amount of hours in comparison to every single professional player that's ever played this game. But I'm just really efficient at what I do. But I do want to start streaming more. I've been having a lot of fun streaming as they've improved the quality of life updates for the game. And it's the more that they do that, the more streaming you see from me. So I'm pretty happy about that. So yeah, obviously my YouTube channel is Romero17. My Twitter, if you want to see memes and shit, the name's right there too. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right, so that's go check him out. Go follow him on Twitter, YouTube, whatever. We're also gonna be dropping episodes every single Wednesday, and I've been grinding the edits hard. So look for other videos on Mondays and Fridays. Make sure you smash the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up, follow me on all of the other socials, and I will see y'all next episode. Peace.